2023 was a great year for coasters. We saw some ridiculous RMCs, insane Intamins, bizarre B&Ms, as well as some other great stuff from other manufacturers. Today, we're going to look at all these coasters, but we're not going to rank them up. We're going to break them down. Which 2023 coaster was the tallest, fastest, longest, best paced? Let's take all that info and rank them up based on prime ride time. These are the 15 best coasters of 2023 by the numbers. First, thanks to YouTube user Intamin Blitz for sending in this video idea. I think it'll be great to start doing this every year. I picked what I think are the 15 best coasters of the year, but that's totally subjective and you may not agree. If you're new to the series, prime ride time starts when the train picks up speed off the lift and ends when it hits the final brakes. For launch coasters, the clock starts when the launch starts. For coasters that cover the same track more than once, that track needs to be accounted for in the length. Also, with the help of Google Maps and the Pythagorean theorem, I can take out the lift, station, and brakes from the overall length, so the numbers I'm using will not match what you see on RCDB. Before we start, if you can drop this video a like, I'd appreciate it. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. And if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. I got a couple channel plugs. Airtime Thrills Raw Footage. Check this out if you have your own channel and need copyright-free off-ride footage. Also, Home Run Productions. If you love baseball as much as I do, definitely give this one a shot. In 15th place with 30 seconds is Maximus, the Flight of the Guardian at Legoland Deutschland, a B&M wing. Yes, a B&M wing at a Legoland park. But as you can expect, this one's very small. Still, it has two inversions, so this coaster definitely has a questionable audience. It rises up 55.8 feet, that's 12th, but it doesn't really have a main drop, dipping into a helix, maxing out at 33.6 miles an hour, that's last place. It covers less than 1,300 feet of track, and that's more than 500 feet behind the next shortest coaster. That being said, it's not the worst paced coaster, but at 42.5 feet per second, it's still second to last. In 14th place with 41 seconds is Zambezi Zinger at Worlds of Fun, a GCI Woody. This starts off in a very interesting way. A spiral lift going up 74 feet, good for 9th place. This lift is so interesting, you could consider it prime ride time, but for the purpose of this video, I can't. Still, not your ordinary lift. It dives down and hits 45 miles an hour, that's 11th, staying pretty low to the ground, especially in the second half, covering over 1,800 feet of track, which is third to last, but having decent pacing at 45.1 feet per second, landing near the middle in 9th. In 13th place with 43 seconds is Storm the Dragon Legend at Tusenfryd, a Gerstlauer Infinity inverted coaster. This starts off with a swing launch, so you have to account for the first two forward and backward sections, then it flies through its complete circuit. Overall, it covers 1,837 feet of track. That's second to last and just 9 feet behind Zambezi Zinger, and those slow launches don't help the pacing, covering 42.7 feet per second, finishing just a fraction ahead of Maximus. When it hits the main course, it's moving fast, but that swing launch hurts the overall number. This doesn't have a drop, but that first dive loop rises up almost 110 feet, that's 7th, and that max speed of 59 miles an hour also puts it at a tie for 7th. In 12th place with 44 seconds is Air Force One at Funspot Atlanta, an RMC iBox coaster. Nobody expected one of the bigger RMCs to come to Funspot Atlanta, but here it is. It starts with a 155-foot chain lift, dropping 146 feet, that's 4th place, hitting a max speed of 64 miles an hour, that's 3rd. It's not the longest ride, covering just over 2,700 feet of prime ride track and landing in the middle in 7th. But as you can imagine, with a short ride time, decent length, and high top speed, this is excellent in pacing and it tops the field, finishing at 62.4 feet per second. It never loses that speed and it careens into the final brake run. In 11th place with 45 seconds is Pipeline the Surf Coaster at SeaWorld Orlando, a B&M surf coaster. Another full circuit launch coaster. This time, no swing launch, but it's got those fancy surf trains, riders standing up and bouncing up and down. It doesn't have a main drop, but it rises up to 110 feet, 6th place and a few inches taller than Storm, using a 60-mile-an-hour launch to get there, that's 5th place. It traverses along 2,634 feet of prime ride track, that's 8th, rising up into big hills in one inversion, a corkscrew, also including 2 helices. Even with those high elements, Pipeline has very good pacing, 58.5 feet per second in 3rd place. In 10th place with 47 seconds is Wildcat's Revenge at Hershey Park, an RMC hybrid. This will always be compared to Air Force One, the two new American RMCs for 2023, so let's see how they compare. We know this has 3 extra seconds of ride time, but it also has more track, covering 80 more feet and one spot ahead of Air Force One. That's 6th place. It's also got a drop 6 feet shorter, one spot behind Air Force in 5th place, 2 miles an hour slower and in 4th place. And right in line with all those stats, it's about 2 feet per second behind in pacing, finishing 2nd in the field. This stays very low to the ground outside that step-up underflip, the first of 4 inversions. Stat-wise, Air Force wins this battle, but enjoy your extra 80 feet in 3 seconds on Wildcat's Revenge. In 9th place with 55 seconds is Arctic Rescue at SeaWorld San Diego, an Intamin family launch coaster. The latest SeaWorld park with one of these straddle coasters. This is all about twists and turns and not height. SeaWorld needs to get a special exemption if they want to build over 30 feet, and it doesn't appear they needed that for Arctic Rescue. This only rises up about 30 feet, that's last place. It uses 3 tire-propelled launches to power the ride, maxing out at 40 miles an hour, which is 3rd to last, dipping and weaving around 2,449 feet of track, that's 11th. And although it doesn't lose any speed because of big hills, it's just not that fast in general, so its 45.5 feet per second is also 11th place. In 8th place with 57 seconds is Tron Light Cycle Run at Magic Kingdom, a Vekoma launch coaster. This is considered a family coaster, not doing any crazy maneuvers and being more about the visuals than anything. But it does rise up 78.1 feet, that's 8th place. Uses LSMs to get up to 59.3 miles an hour. That's 6th and barely ahead of Storm, and that's definitely not a family coaster. Tron also weaves around over 2,500 feet of track. That's down in 10th place. It may have a high top speed, but it doesn't keep that speed during its course, most of it being inside with a lot of special effects, covering only 45.1 feet per second, almost identical to Zambezi Zinger. In 7th place with 58 seconds is Batman Gotham City Escape at Parque Warner Madrid, an Intamin LSM launch coaster. You could call this Velocicoaster's little brother. It has 3 launches, and its main feature is the top hat, standing 147.6 feet tall, 3rd place on the list. All those launches bring it up to 64.6 miles an hour. That's 2nd, and it goes into a course jam-packed full of elements in 4 inversions, ending with a spike and a rollback, using a turntable to get back to the station. That makes up just over 2,900 feet of prime ride track, 5th place. Because of some of those high elements and hang time moments, its pacing is pretty standard, right in the middle in 7th place, 50.2 feet per second. In 6th place with 59 seconds is Mandrill Mayhem at Chessington World of Adventures, a B&M wing. Just like Maximus, this is a small-scale wing, but this one is a shuttle coaster with a swing launch. That does increase the amount of track covered. That, and the fact it does everything forward and backward. This is a very simple layout, having just one inversion, that being an inline twist. So even with all the extra track added in, it's still only 9th place, just over 2,600 feet. At the end of its course, it spirals up, rising up to 65.6 feet, 11th place, and its launch gets it up to 44.7 miles an hour, that's 12th. Even with its extra LSM boost mid-ride, its pacing isn't great, 44.3 feet per second in 12th place. In 5th place with 62 seconds is Cloud Shuttle at Phanta Wild Wonderland, a Vekoma Super Boomerang. Get used to this one. Great Adventure is getting one this year, and this is very interesting. It starts with a swing launch, going forward, then backward up one of the spikes, then forward into its course, finishing with another spike and doing it all backwards. That brings its overall length up to over 3,100 feet. That's 4th place. It's got a max speed of 59 miles an hour, tied at 7th with Storm, and its max height is 164 feet, though not everyone on the train is going to hit that mark. Still, that's 2nd place. Even with the swing launch, and the train slowing down when it comes to a stop and goes the other direction, it's still decent in pacing, 6th place at 50.1 feet per second. In 4th place with 63 seconds is Dark Coaster at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, an Intamin family launch coaster. This is like Arctic Rescue, but it's all indoors and has a custom layout, relying on effects for the ride experience rather than the elements. It only gets up to 37 feet, that's 2nd to last. It's not very fast at 36 miles an hour, but in the dark it probably seems a lot more than that. But it does have decent length, over 2,200 feet of prime ride track in 12th place. Low speed, decent track length. That's a bad recipe for pacing, and there it is in last place, more than 7 feet behind Maximus at 35 feet per second. Again, the overall experience is more than just the elements themselves. In 3rd place with 69 seconds is Manta at SeaWorld Abu Dhabi, an Intamin LSM launch coaster. This park just opened this year, most of it's indoors, but around the main building you see the sprawling Intamin, twisting around a long course with 4 inversions. That's almost 3,600 feet of prime ride track in 3rd place. It doesn't have a main drop, but its highest element is this camelback, reaching 50 feet and ranking 3rd to last. It doesn't quite get up to 50 miles an hour, only 9th in speed, so even without great speed and long track length, Manta isn't bad in pacing. It uses those low-to-the-ground elements to keep its speed. finishing 5th at 52 feet per second. In second place with 77 seconds is Two Tatis at Parc Asterix, an Intamin LSM launch coaster. Possibly the best coaster to open in 2023. At least, the best coaster outside of America. This is Intamin's latest LSM swing launch masterpiece. Very similar to Pantheon, but looks better. With the extra track added to the swing launch, it covers just over 4,000 feet of track. That's number 1 on the list. After the swing launch, it goes into a 167-foot top hat. That's also number 1, diving into a 101-degree drop, maxing out at 66.5 miles an hour. Again, number 1. But it's not going to be a clean sweep. We already saw Air Force 1 take number 1 in pacing, so Two Tatis has to settle for 4th, 52.8 feet per second, almost 10 feet behind Air Force, so it wasn't that close. In first place with 79 seconds is Big Bear Mountain at Dollywood, a Vekoma launch coaster. I didn't plan it this way, but for the second straight By the Numbers video, Big Bear Mountain takes number 1. This is a long family coaster, featuring 3 LIM launches, covering almost 3,900 feet of prime ride track. That's second place and less than 200 feet behind Two Tatis. It's not that fast. 48 miles an hour is only good for 10th, but it never gets too high off the ground, at one point rising to 66 feet. That's also 10th, mainly staying along its terrain. That saves its pacing a little bit, this landing right in the middle in 8th place at 49 feet per second, sitting right ahead of Zambezi Zinger, and right behind Batman Gotham City Escape. It's a very long and mild ride, but not sluggish by any means. That's a wrap on the best coasters of 2023, By the Numbers. Let me know if anything here surprised you or confirmed something you already knew. I was surprised to see how many unconventional coasters are on here. 11 of the 15 have a launch. 5 of those have a multi-pass launch or cover the same track more than once. And of the 4 coasters that have lift hills, 1 of them is a spiral, 1 is a tiny B&M wing, and then you got your 2 RMCs. So really, an odd mix of coasters. And that doesn't even include Primordial at Lagoon. I left that out because of the dark ride section, so it doesn't really compare to the rest of the coasters. I was surprised to see Dark Coaster last in pacing, but after seeing the other stats, it makes sense. And I was surprised to see Pipeline up at 3rd in pacing. I thought it wasn't that intense, trying to keep the forces down with people in that weird stand-up position. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and give me a sub for more content like this. I have a playlist for other videos in this series. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.